I spent most of my adult life, I can't believe I'm going to go over this today. I spent most of my adult life as what you might call a proper loser. I'm going to go over everything today. Not everything, because some of the stuff probably isn't shareable. But I'm going to take you through all of the ways in which I have failed in my life, and they are significant. And I'm at a point in my life where I'm relatively comfortable to share all of this with you because I've come out the other side, and I'm in a I'm in the happiest place I've ever been in my entire life, to be fair. So let's go through just a journey. I always think that people have been through a journey, that have got life experiences, that have had a troubled past, are often the most interesting people sat at a table. You find yourself in a what are they called? Dinner date, not dinner date, dinner evening thing. We have people around for dinner, or if you're a corporate thing or whatever it is. Those are often the most interesting people. They're also, because of the stuff they've gone through, potentially, if they can come out the other side of it, some of the most successful people as well, because they know what it's like to be in the doldrums. All right, let's start with my academic background. So I did okay in my GCSEs. I did relatively well, pretty much mostly Bs, so not setting the world on fire, but Bs, decent enough, and that managed to allow me to get into do A levels. I went to a really good school. It was John Taylor in Barton under Needwood. Really good school, high grades from everyone. All of my contemporaries, all my friends were really academic, and that kind of annoyed me a little bit because they just latched onto things really easy. I had to work hard for it. I had to work really hard for those GCSEs. So I did my A levels. I decided to do maths, biology, and history. I shouldn't have. If you've ever done maths A level, it is one of the hardest things I have ever done. But I didn't apply myself at all, and I discovered two things: beer and women. And those things sort of set me on a downward trajectory from which took me a long time to come out the other side of. I remember specifically the night before my maths A level. I used to live in a little village with a bunch of chefs that worked in the local spa, and I worked there as well, and they were having a bit of a party. And I thought, right, I'll go there and I'll just have a couple of drinks and then I'll head back for a nice long sleep before I do my A levels. It was 6 a.m. I got into bed that night, and my maths A levels at 9 a.m. Needless to say, I got a U. No, not a U, an N, which back then stood for nearly. Nearly got an E, nearly passed it. The other two, history and biology, I got 2 E's in both of them. So I came out of A levels with 2 E's and an N. And back then, you used to get like UCAS points. I think I was about 4 UCAS points. So obviously, my university weren't prepared to accept me. However, I did what I've always managed to do over the course of my life. I talked my way into it. I went to interview, said, I'm very sorry. These things have been going on. Give us a chance. So I got into university, and unfortunately, that was in Liverpool University. And if you like beer and you like your girls and you're in the centre of Liverpool, bit of a recipe for disaster. In the first year, I turned up for the first term. I did biomolecular sciences. In the first year, I turned up for the first term, and then I didn't turn up for any of the lectures for the remainder of the year. The exams I went to, I passed, but I decided not to go to some of them for whatever reason. I was in a bit of a mess, right? I knew it wasn't the right thing to do. But the first year of my university was in halls, but it was in the top floor, top left room. Everyone that got in through clearing, basically, we were a bunch of losers. I could tell you a million stories about the 6 people that lived in that flat. You wouldn't like any of them, if I'm honest. The second year, I thought, right, I'll redo that year. I turned up for the first week, and then I didn't turn up for the rest of the year. I'm laughing about it. I know it's not the right thing to do, right? And it was really traumatic at the time, and I hated myself for it. But I am the person I am now as a result of having gone through that. I did hate that time. So after the end of the second year, I thought, right, well, I'll just try a different course. So I'm now in my 3rd year of university, and I'd met a girl that I was living with, and she was doing some random course. What was it? American and Media Studies. And I thought, I'll give that a go. History repeats itself, doesn't it, my friends? So in the first term, I turned up and I really enjoyed it. I felt like the mature student at that point. I was 20 years old, 2 years into it. Everyone else was 18. What happened? First term, turned up, then didn't turn up again. End of that year, I failed. I did some of the exams. The ones I did, I passed, and it got me enough points to get into a meeting with the head lecturer, and I blagged it again. I said, listen, I'm sorry about all that. Why do these people listen to me? Tuition fees, that's why. I said, I'm sorry about all that. I'll apply myself now. Let me do it again. I'm in my 4th year now, and I'm still doing the first year of university in some dog shit course. It doesn't really mean anything and was never going to get me a good career anyway. One term into that, I dropped out again. And then at the end of that term, I decided, my mum came up and visited me one weekend. I'm just going to leave, right? And I was living with my girlfriend at that point. We were on rocky territory. I wasn't a very good boyfriend, shall we say. And I just left, right? She had gone away for a night. My mum came up. I said, let's just fuck off, shall we? So I went back, I left and I went home. But because it was in such a mess, my mum wouldn't take me in. Oh God, this is the worst part. I had to go and live with my sister, and she was very good to take me in. I really appreciate it. But I was, 21, 22 years old now, no degree, absolute loser, absolute mess of a life that I created at that point. And I spent 18 months living on, those 2 up, 2 down terraced houses. If you've ever been in them, you walk in the front door and you're in the living room. Then there's a dining room area and a kitchen at the back. I was sleeping on the floor of that dining room area at the back for 18 months. Mess. Staying up all night, not doing anything. I went in and out of some crappy jobs. I didn't go in the dole. I wasn't prepared to accept it. My ego didn't allow me to go in the dole, which meant I had no money whatsoever. I dropped down to 9 stone. Now, I bloody love my food. It wasn't a case of I didn't want food. I just couldn't afford it. I remember getting the Greggs sausage rolls. They were around 70 odd p at that time. If I could get a couple of them a week for lunch, I was minted. I was sorted. That period changed my entire life. Everything I do now is because I never, ever want to go back to that part of my life. I know I'm joking about it, but it was the worst part of my life. What changed? I met who is now my wife, and she sorted me out. And it was as simple as that. She applied on my behalf for the first proper job I ever got, which was at Molson Coors, big brewery. I started right at the bottom, obviously because of my background and my experience, which was zero. My qualifications, pretty much zero. From there, I managed to I blagged my way up and did well, up and up. I went to a point where I was packaging and innovation lead for Central Eastern Europe, which was great. I did some really cool projects. But we're a couple of years into this now, and me and my now wife decided to get married. So I thought I had a really good idea. Let's pay for the wedding by gambling. Okay, we don't come from wealthy backgrounds, so we had to pay for the wedding ourselves one way or another. We got a few £100, I think, from both of our parents, but weddings are expensive. We ended up doing it in the garden, which I really loved. I would do that again if we were to renew our vows or whatever it is. I would do it we did it in our own garden. We had a nice, decent garden. We got a load of tables in, just 40 or 50 of our closest friends and family, and we had a great celebration. But in order to pay for that, 4 months before, we got married on the 4th of July, March time, I thought, let's get this paid for with some gambling. So I took out 2 or 3 credit cards, and I don't have a gambling problem. I barely ever gamble now. Sometimes I do, I'll do an accumulator. I've been to Cheltenham, things like that. I don't have a gambling problem. I just wanted to pay for the wedding by gambling. What an idiot. You can guess how that ended up. I think this was before all the regulations and stuff came onto gambling websites, because I had a very low income, £22,000, £23,000, and I managed to rack up £5,000 or £6,000 worth of debt in just over a weekend. And the worst part about it, I swear to God, I got scammed. At the end, I took out one more credit card for £3,000, and I thought, right, I don't know what I'm going to do here, so I'll go on roulette. And there's a thing, whereby you put £10 on red. If it doesn't come up, you put £20. If it doesn't come up, you put £40. You're doubling your best trying to get the £10 back. It didn't come up at 40. It didn't come up at 80, 160, 320, 640, 1280, 2,560. And then at that point, I ran out of money. And red never came up once. That is a scam. I am absolutely certain of it. I remember the company now. It was Mansion Bet. I bet they don't exist anymore. So they took £3,000 off me over the course of 10 minutes. No checks, no warnings, whatever it was. That obviously came out in the wash. £6,000 lost. The wedding still went ahead, believe it or not. I'm obviously an incredible charmer. I don't know how I managed to make that happen. It took me about 5 years to pay that off. So I had to contact all of the companies, self-ban. Like I said, I didn't have a problem of any sort. I didn't have any desire to do it again. That was one of the worst. When I lost out on all of that roulette, I remember walking into the dining room, looking in the mirror and going, God, you've really fucked up here, mate. And I did. And I had years. It took me years to pay that off. From then, things stabilized a little bit. And I continued to move up on the trajectory of corporate, up and up, changed companies a couple of times. But what I did do along that journey is, because of all of that stuff I went through, I kind of neglected a lot of my old school friends. So I lost a load of them. They kind of stayed together. They're still together a lot. There's a couple of them left that I have now that I am in contact with. If you're watching this, Linz and Steph, you're the best. And I see them from time to time. But the rest of them just sort of fobbed off. I mean, I have a great friend network now. I'm very fortunate. I have a community and a network, and I've managed to rebuild it up all again with other new people that I hadn't let down. So that was a relatively stable period, obviously, with regard to that. And I just kind of sorted myself out. And because that fear, that desperation to never go back into that sort of life again really drove me forward. At that point, then, I realized in 2020, I lost both my parents, of course. So I lost my dad in 2013. And I lost my mum in 2017. That didn't set me off the rails in any way. But I came out of that with no inheritance whatsoever. Again, we're not from wealth. In fact, I ended up down for having to pay for stuff as a result of going through that. Very clear to me, parents dying, having kids. I had a boy in 2011. I had a boy in 2013. That sort of period between 2011 and 2017, I really did grind down, settle down, move up the career. And then it wasn't until 2020 that I decided we got to do something about this financial future. So despite all of that background and everything I went through, I then in 2020 decided I'm going to take control of this. I don't want to live this life. I want to have a level of financial independence. And I started investing, and I started aggressively investing. And here I am now in 2026, having been made redundant last year. That one wasn't my fault. All the other stuff was my fault. But there's those failures all the way along life, isn't it? Well, obviously my parents dying wasn't my fault. But I was made redundant last April. And as a result of having started to invest and create this content, which I do across YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, email list. I'll put all the links to the below for those, actually, because I know a lot of people only watch on one platform. If you have any interest, you can go and watch it on there. I'm now in a position where I'm on track to be retired, financially independent by the time I'm 50, which is only in 7 years' time. Nearly 7 years. My birthday is on Valentine's Day. So it is a traumatic and ridiculous story. Some people won't have experienced anything like this. Some people probably come from worse. And some people, a lot of people, won't have come out the other end of it like I had. And that is important. And if you are in the middle of it right now, I feel for you. It's terrible. You can come out the other side. It is possible, and you can fix things. You can resolve things. You can create stability. You can create financial stability as a result, but it's not easy. So if I can go through that and be in a position where I'm retiring by the time I'm 50, most of you watching this won't have had quite the background that I've had. What the hell is stopping you? You got to take control of these things. It's in your own gift. You can change yours and your family's life as a result of doing so. But listen, I thought I'd share that story. I don't know if I'm going to get some grief for this, but that's the reality of it. Like I say, it's what I went through, and I own it. And I am the far better person for having gone through it, actually.